So here with Dr. Goodman and myself, Martin Casado. I just wanted to bring up a topic that we were talking about, and we just decided to record this. I haven't even asked Larry the question, and the question is that yesterday I was listening to a whole thing on an interview on this guy that left the former Scientology, and their main topic was, is Scientology a religion or a business? And it's this guy Mark Headley, and he's getting interviewed.
I'm familiar. Go ahead.
He wrote a book, and he says the whole thing. I mean, he grew up, and this guy Mark Headley, his mother is also still there. Is not allowed to talk to him because she disassociated. They have a term for people that leave that you can't even associate with them.
Yes.
But my question is, and when I saw, not to bring up like a whole topic on Scientology, because I know guys like Grant Cardone and all these kind of people, they use the tactics and the business ways from them. And what I'm seeing is, and I guess my main question is that I see the same tactics that this guy described in the interview all the way across is what's happening in the sales funnels are the same. Like, do it now. You have to understand this is the thing. Like you only have, you have a certain amount of money. And the main thing is, again, with the certain kind of thing, like the clients on demand, is like they don't care about you. You have to have money. They don't really care. Anyway, it doesn't have money is not of interest to them because they sell programs. They start with the $50 program, then they go to the 100, and then they find these solutions. We found all these other things. So just introduce onto this. I know you know this well, but that's just a segue into what I saw last night in this interview.
So the most interesting thing, just in terms of setting a historical footnote for this, is that one of my first consulting clients was somebody who was on the ship with Hubbard back when the elements of the principles of Scientology were first being laid out. And what it was she came to me for was what at another time in another place you might have considered deprogramming. Because what she really came for was that by space-time repetition, she had been entrained in her mind and brain with certain of the principles of Scientology, which are not actually factually based. And the point about that is that with space-time repetition, stuff gets into your neurology, that your neurology acts as though it's fact, when in fact it may or may not be fact. So that's the first point. The second point in terms of making
let me stop you 1 second real quick. When you said, just to clarify, ship, because I know in the interview he was on a boat and he couldn't get anywhere. Is that ship the ship you're talking, not a spaceship or anything else?
Yes, that's the ship. It was a boat,
right.
And it was a boat, A, because it was available, and B, because Hubbard's background was military, Navy in particular. Now,
right.
The other thing about the nature of, we'll just call it the nature of the business of religion. The reason why religion got formulated the way that it did as far as the business end of it went, and we're talking about all the way up to and including the role that celibacy played in the ministry. The purpose of celibacy in the ministry, from a strictly cash flow standpoint, was to create an unblemished, unquestioned lineage for the real property that the priests would acquire during their lifetime, by making it so that they didn't and couldn't marry, by making it so that even in the language of it, that they were married to the church. Then the church became the recipient of all of the real property that got acquired by the minister over the course of their lifetime. The second benefit then also became that the property that the church acquired became exempt from, let's just talk about the United States since that's where we are, it became exempt from state, local, and federal taxes. Tax exempt status is a phenomenal advantage to a business. Okay?
Absolutely.
So the business actually comes off the tax rolls.
Yeah.
The last piece of it related to programs, products, and services that that business then provides to the participants is it all becomes tax deductible. And tax deductibility, depending on the tax bracket of the participant, can be at the low end 20%, at the high end somewhere up into a 50% reduction in the effective cost of whatever product, services, and ideas that the business, church, Scientology, whatever, provides and sells to the potential member.
Right.
So,
Well, they talked this aside. They talked a little bit about that. And when you get all that kind of money, they would just invest it, because you can't just hold that money. So they kept buying property across the U.S.
Correct.
And another thing that they talked about is that up until even after Hubbard died, he talked about that they were suing the IRS in every single state and suing them to their half of their money goes to legal battles. Like all that money goes to properties and legal batting. Anybody that goes against them, they legally go against it with their legal team. And they went against the IRS and up until like 1993, and they actually won. And the only reason they won was they already owed $1 billion to taxes. And if they hadn't, it would have been the fall of Scientology. And they made a deal with the IRS, and then
So the thing of it is, the church is in the same status. When churches acquire property and then that property gets sold, which actually just happened, the property down here in Miami that Unity on the Bay used to occupy just got sold.
Can't even imagine the amount.
Millions. It's waterfront property.
Yeah, I know. I used to live right by there. Right.
Okay. So waterfront property gets sold. The owner was a church that had tax exempt status. Do the math.
Yeah.
Now, to the other point that you're speaking about with regard to only being interested in people that have money, if I wanted to be most callous about it, I'd say it's for the same reason that they asked Bonnie and Clyde why they robbed banks. And the answer they got was because that's where the money is.
Right.
But in terms of dealing with clients, what I can just tell you is that being able to work with someone who's got skin in the game and has the resources necessary to actually purchase the services and products that you've got to offer, it's not only that it's essential, it fundamentally changes the nature of the reality of things. And the best example I can give you literally happened yesterday. Yesterday, I was on with a client who's she's in the middle of her third 90-day program with me. And she's had this big epiphany because she was at Your Goodest Life. And she's finally really gotten clarity on what her purpose and what her mission are. And now she wants to go full on to put it into action. Right. So she has this awareness that she shares with me. And the next thing she says is, can we do this twice a week? So the difference between having someone who's got resources and somebody that doesn't is the following. If my answer got to be this, which is what it did, yes, we can. And then the next question she asked was, how much will it cost? And I got to give her a number, and she got to say, that's fine. And then this morning I got the response back that was, the check is in the mail. Right. Now, just consider that someone else who didn't have the resources might still have the burning desire, and it would take you down a whole other line of communication, having to deal with not having enough money, and it's not fair, and blah, 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 blah. And when it was all said and done, you can bet that the end result would be that the client wouldn't be able to do the work.
Right. No, I completely understand. And I see that formula. And it's my thing was just very similar to, you explained a lot of the programs that once you're in, they give you the $50 program. Same, it's kind of this thing like $97 is the standard. And then you go to the next program. And then what he was explaining was, it was kind of interesting, is they have like, it's like you go to, there's certain levels, C1 up to C8. And when you go, I don't remember the exact letters. It was like
Okay,
CO1.
so in Scientology, they call
Each level.
they call these levels, it's called the bridge.
Right.
And you go up steps in the bridge.
Right.
Now, I personally, and one of the reasons why our program is structured the way that it is, we're really building out this system in the reverse of that. And here's the reason why. I believe that it's more fortuitous to start with people who can have skin in the game, because when they have skin in the game, you can, as the provider, I'll put it this way, you can service the crap out of them. You can give them the best you have to offer, not hold anything back. And you, the provider, isn't really got to be concerned about the cost. And they, as the participant, aren't going to be really concerned about the cost, because they're already in, number one. And number two, the people who are most likely to be able to take what you're going to give them and put it into an action plan just turns out to be that they're people who have gotten some level of mastery over their money.
Yes.
Some level of mastery over their business. Some level of mastery over their lives.
Right. Well, one of the interesting things was, even in those levels of, he showed one, he shows one where, and he did some example of little aliens attached all over you, but I'm not even going to get into that one. But
no,
one of the main things, yeah, it was bizarre. But one of the main things is that the first thing is to show you that, for example, the $50 program, whatever, the 97 today, when you see in any kind of pitch, then they show you like, well, we found all these other problems, and we have, when within this one test or this one program, and we have the other following programs, which is the next pitch, which is the next
test that they use is called the Oxford Capacity Analysis.
Okay.
I'm very familiar. And the point of it is to be factually accurate. Who doesn't have more stuff to deal with?
Yeah, absolutely.
The answer to that is nobody.
Mm-hmm.
So at a certain level, you could say that it's disingenuous to start somebody in at the lower level when you know that they've got more stuff that they need to deal with. However, I will again relate a story regarding a client who, at the end of her first 90-day program, as we were winding things down, and she said to me, "What's next?" And I told her what was next. She said to me very perceptively, she said, "You knew I had more work to do, didn't you?" And I said, "Well, we all have more work to do." And she said, "Well, yeah, but you really knew when we started that it was going to take more than 90 days, didn't you?" And I said to her, the beautiful thing about having this kind of program is you can stop anytime you want to stop. I don't use long-term contracts with people. It's all, the longest commitment I make with people in an in-depth program is 90 days. And the reason why it's 90 days is because it takes 90 days to instill a habit.
Right.
But nearing the end of the 90 days, and on occasion people say, "Okay, I'm good. I'm satisfied with my results. Thanks a lot. It was great."
Right.
And my
66
answer to
days, 90 days, right.
And my answer to that is, "That's terrific. Glad to hear it. And we're here for you." Now, what we're now building out, and here's the reason for it, is to build in ongoing accountability. We're going to build a community that's a tribe that you'll be able to be a part of for some nominal fee. And yeah, it'll probably be somewhere around $99 a month, because that's a workable figure for people.
Right. And it's also too, like, putting these videos together, putting all the thing, it's a business in and of itself.
Well, and that's the other point.
Right. Yeah, right. That's the whole point. But what's interesting in that thing too, on those, to go back to those levels, was that the level was that first test, the one that you said was the test, the intro
Oxford
test.
Capacity Analysis.
Sorry, say it again.
OCA, the Oxford Capacity Analysis.
Right. When that test, once you do that and they show you the other things, and then he says you go to these other levels and there's up to like 8. And
Yep.
another interesting thing, he says that Hubbard had made up to 10, but they claim that there's 15, but they never found the other 5. And there's this one guy that they monitor monthly for $2 million a year or something, following this one guy that worked side by side with him that has the other 5. And they
Yes.
they have like FBI people on him. It's but
So here, go ahead.
I just want to finish the level part because I know I go off topic. I'm remembering half of the interview. But the other thing was that once the level, so you get these things, you find the other parts, they tackle them through all their programs, which, by the way, they're 1,000 increments of each other program. But at the end program, when you get to like level C08, whatever that one is,
they're called levels of clear.
Levels of clear.
Levels of clear, yeah.
And at the end result is that you manifested, you put all of those things, it was all your fault that all those things happened.
Well, okay, so if you remember, one of my foundational principles is that it's all an illusion that you create by your perception.
Right.
That's the reasoning behind the fact that what you fear comes near, you create it, you attract it, you become it, because in the way that we are neurologically created, in the way that reality is in fact constructed, which is again the reason why biohacking and mindset mastery actually work, is because when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Because they do, because as it says in the Course in Miracles, it's all an illusion. And some people find that whole concept very disorienting.
Yeah, it's hard to understand.
They live with the notion that this physical, tangible chair, this physical, tangible body, that this is real.
Right.
And so if that's the reality that you live, then you're going to create a totally aligned to those facts, those belief systems, those concepts. You're going to experience life through those glasses.
Right.
But if you change the way you look at things to the fact that reality can be mutable, that reality can be bendable, that reality can be shaped by what you think about, what you're grateful for, what you believe is going to happen. Well, once you get to that place, the paradox is that you are both free, because you can co-create anything, and the other side of it that you have to then wrap your arms around is that at the same moment that you're free, you're also the one who's maximally responsible for the outcome.
Right.
So that's that tipping point, and the duality and the paradox is you're completely free. There's no fixed determinism. And at the moment that you're completely free in that respect, there's also paradoxically no person, place, thing, idea, or event that you can, for want of a better way to put it, you can't blame it on anything or anybody else but you.
Right, right.
Which is the reason why the setup I work with people here, the setting is with a mirror over my shoulder, because from time to time in working with people, they need to be reminded that the one who's in charge, the one that has all the power to change your life, is the one you see in the mirror.
Right, right. No, absolutely. So yeah, it's just the similarities, and as far as the sales pitch and the persistence. And they brought up Grant Cardone, and they brought up some other people that they actually, their involvement gets them like kickbacks or something. About, I don't know what he was talking about.
Well, here, look, watch this. So the church has a sales job. They're selling indulgences. Indulgences, if you read the history of the church, indulgences are a means of getting liberated from the damaging effects on your soul of the sins that you commit in this physical life.
Right.
The way you sell the indulgence is you make a donation to the church.
Right.
Does that sound familiar?
Yep. All the other Catholics and everything. Yes.
The point about how Scientology came upon the business principles is they were running these, what they call orgs, these branch offices, if you will, these
Right.
franchises
Yeah.
all over the world. And in order to run a massive organization like that, you've got to learn scalability. You've got to learn the principles of human behavior, and you've got to learn the fundamentals of management. And they did it so well that in the process, they established a whole other level of awareness and education that became these management courses.
Right.
A lot of the preliminary awareness and knowledge that I got when I was first building my practice, my chiropractic practice, was from these courses that were taught from the people who learned running Scientology organizations.
Right. That org board and all that kind of stuff.
The org board, they're called the WISE courses.
Right.
A branch, because of the negative association to the Scientology brand,
Right.
in terms of dealing with business people and professionals, they created a sub-brand totally off the line of Scientology, not associated directly with Scientology, called WISE, W-I-S-E, International. And you're gonna have to you're gonna have to cut this all out, because even though we give full credit for everything in all the work we do,
right.
If this goes out this way, we'll be the ones getting contacted by lawyers.
Right.
So, but here's the point.
Uh-huh.
The principles are sound. The management principles they learned from running their businesses are sound. And the reason why they're sound is, now watch this connection. The Kabbalah, which is another system, it's another set of belief systems coming from the other end of the spectrum in terms of chronology. The Kabbalah is the mystical component of the Jewish religion.
Right.
Well, in one of the best courses I've ever taken, called the Kabbalah of Business, the woman who wrote the course and teaches the program says, watch this, the only purpose of having a business is to give you a living, breathing laboratory to see the universal laws at play.
Right.
Now, when you shift your perspective to that level of, we'll just call it non-attachment, then you get freed from the notion that it's all about the money. Because the money is just a byproduct of the services that you render. And the money is just a way to keep score. And the money is just one piece of the feedback loop that you get in the material realm to let you know how you're doing with learning and applying the universal principle.
Right.
Because really all money is little rectangular pieces of paper with the picture of the dead people on them.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So
it's a matter of not making money, as you have to earn the money. And so that's
to remember that it's not about the money, it's about the impact that you make. And the greater the impact you make, the more significant the problem for someone that you get to solve with them, the higher the price point that you can command.
Right, right. But what, just to go on a little bit on that, this guy talked about some fanaticism and stuff like that, as far as like them keeping them hostage. The actual main guy the main guy that's still there, that he punches them in the face.
There's a whole series that's on, I don't know, one of the channels right now.
He talked about it a lot. He says, go watch those things and you'll see that this is the truthful stuff that I'm talking about.
but here, just watch this. How different is that really than what's going on in politics in the United States right now, where this was on yesterday's news, if you wear a MAGA hat,
right,
you stand the great risk of getting punched in the face or physically assaulted.
that's a good segue. Yes, that's true.
Listen, we're at a fascinating point in time in human evolution, because that universal principle that maximum evolution occurs at the borders of support and challenge. Right now, we're at a tipping point about the values that are prevalent in the culture, A, in the United States, and B, on the planet. Because the very principles that created the opportunity upon which the United States was based, you now have up to and around half the population that no longer believe in the opportunity of freedom that capitalism was designed to promote.
True. That's true. That is a good good
what
point.
You seek to annihilate, you create.
Right.
So we've now reached a point where mostly, unfortunately, it's in the young people that, because they've dropped out of their educational process, foundational principles of the history of this country, they've gotten so alienated from that they've become so suggestible that the very programs that created the devastation to the Venezuelan economy are part of the foundational platform of the progressive Democrats who are running for president now.
Right.
Now, you could not make this up.
Yeah. Like, it's funny because that guy, the interviewer, Patrick Bet David, he's an Iranian guy, and he does all these host shows, and it's called Valuetainment. That's where I got it. That's the interview I saw.
Valuetainment.
Valuetainment.
That's a fascinating contraction.
Yeah, exactly. And
they're using entertainment to deliver value and to interact with your value system.
Exactly. So this guy he came from Iran. He said he did all these things in they put him into the military. He got his butt whooped by his dad, very strict upbringing. I don't know about his dad. I remember it was harsh. They were really, really harsh on him. And that's what he asked the interviewer of on the interview part. He asked this guy because he also wrote a book, this guy, Mark Headley. And he said all of those factors, all of those keeping he did overnighters. He had to work he was a slave worker. He made about $29,000 total in all his 15 years working in the Scientology, all this discipline. Now the guy, he escaped, and that was a whole other story. He escaped, and then his wife had to get like a secret phone, and they still found the phone. And anyways, this whole long thing of escaping, he wrote a book about it. But the point is, what this guy, Patrick, the host, was trying to show is like all that hardship, all that thing that he felt in Iran, and that made him, he would have never done the shows he's running, the Valuetainment. He would have never done these things.
Yes,
he's trying to show the comparison that this guy left Scientology, and like a couple years later, now he has like $1 million company of running these things in strict discipline.
Your mess is your message.
Right.
Nothing is in the way. Everything is on the way. And a master is someone who finds this out and can live with that. And that really is one of the takeaways of the Goodman Factor, is when you change the way you look at the things in your life that you think are the things that are holding you back.
Right.
When you can, in fact, become grateful for them, in that moment of what I call the moment of spontaneous healing, when you recognize that what you thought was a curse was in fact a blessing.
Right.
In that moment, A, you're healed of the effects of that moment on you. And B, your consciousness is elevated so that C, you now have a new point of value that you then get to share with other people.
Right. Based upon your mess and whatever you thought was a mess in the process actually made you a
Correct.
stronger person in the
Correct.
long run. Yeah, no, same thing across. I remember doing construction when I was 19. My dad made me build the house that they were doing there, and I hated every moment of it. I was like, this,
Yes.
my dad is the worst. I hate making me do construction, sitting there in ditches, putting rebars and cutting my hand. But at the end of the day, now there's not a thing I don't fix in the house. There's not anything, nothing goes unfixed. I have my tools here ready. Like everything, like every obstacle that's happened is something that's helped me now in the now.
Yes.
And I just get things done, you know, especially with our relationship. I'm putting all these factors together and becoming the person I am today.
So
But that
the
was the whole
second level program, the whole point of Pivotal Moments really is to create a vehicle, a workshop wherein you can come and bring your shit story, so to speak,
right.
your shit sandwich,
Yeah.
and turn it into a feast.
Right.
That you can take the stuff that you thought was the stuff that was ruining your life and get to find out from it, from seeing it differently, that in fact you've discovered your purpose, your mission, and get the logistics, even if you stay in for coaching about it, to get the logistics in how to actually manifest it in your life.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should, this is enough on the side. It's just an interesting topic, and it's very
Yes.
interrelated. I thought, especially with all the programs I'm
Great.
seeing across the line and ClickFunnels and all that there. And even with Grant Cardone, his persistence is, come on, man, you got the money, man. You know, you just got to know how to invest it. You got to know how to put your stuff in. You got to know how to, come on, I'm the solution. I have the programs. Join my thing for 99 cents.
I shared with you when we first met.
And by the way, I love Grant Cardone. Just want to put it out
there.
Yeah, okay.
When I did my first highly paid speaking gig in 1993, I said what at that point seemed to be to some people, I made an audacious statement. I said that if Jesus Christ was alive today, and this was back in 93,
right.
I said he would be a motivational speaker. He would have infomercials. He would have a theme song, and he would be selling courses in personal development and transformation.
Yeah, and don't I know, and just to give, it's funny. I don't know if Grant Cardone was in that meeting when you said that in 1992, but right, we went to the 10X together.
It was in Sweden, so I don't think
Sweden.
so.
He might have been in Sweden, because it's just crazy that we went to the 10X thing that happened in February 1st of Grant Cardone did a 10X thing in Miami, and we went for it was a 3-day thing event. But anyway, you left like Sunday, like a little bit earlier, and when he was doing his finishing stuff, and he literally by verbatim said what you said, that, and I was just like, Larry left. He said that exactly, and that's in our book as well. I wrote that
because
in the book.
Truth is
Fridays with Goodman.
True. The truth is true. The truth is true cross-temporally. That means across time. It's true across culture. It's true in any given ology that you look in. And I'm fond of saying the truth is there's only one book. And in that one book of universal wisdom, when you are aware, when you are awakened, when you are what they're now calling woke, you've seen the book, or you haven't even seen it, you have it on a spontaneous download from above down, from the inside out. And that's really what the purpose of the Goodman Factor is. It's what the purpose of these videos is. It's what the purpose of all that we're here on planet Earth to do.
Right. And just to clarify, not in like a Bible sense or that, it's just a universal book of knowledge. It's all retained.
Right.
It's not the Vedic messages or some sort of.
No. It's actually the consciousness that the scribes who wrote the Bible, who wrote the Veda, who wrote all that stuff, it's where they, depending on who you read, depending on what you believe, I have a level of certainty that that's the inspired source that we all draw from.
Right.
And it's awesome. Great.
All right, good stuff. Well, cool. Again, any other to find out about Pivotal Moments or more things that we've been putting out, you can follow us on all the social media outlets, Dr. Larry Goodman. Also at www.goodmanfactor.com. We will be having upcoming events coming. I think we decided now I have it here, would be around on that May 2nd. That's it. Oh yeah. So the pivotal moments that Larry was discussing would be around May 18th to the May 19th weekend. And then we will be doing another Your Goodest Life on June 29th and June 30th, a 2-day event there. So we'll have more information there. But for now, just
Go
go
to
to
the website, check it out.
goodmanfactor.com. Yeah, and you get, again, goodmanfactor.com, and follow the other stuff. It's social media as well. You can see us on, we put daily things on Instagram at Dr.Larry Goodman. And also go check out the book on Amazon at fridayswithgoodman.com. Sorry, it's Fridays with Goodman is the actual book. I have to actually do a website on that. So we'll do that next. All right, Larry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Good
great.
talk.
Thank you.